And that's what I want people to hear is, for the most part, everything that's wrong in our lives is a software problem. In other words, you don't have to get a new body. You don't have to be a new person. You don't need a brain transplant. You just need to change your code. And it's really that simple.
Welcome to the Wellness Amazon podcast, where we talk about everything body, mind, and spirit, health, and wellness. No subject is taboo here, and we have fun peeling back all the layers. Let's do this. Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Wellness Amazon podcast. And today we're going to talk a lot about probably manifestation, but we're going to go a lot deeper than that because people know manifestation and they know the very shallow rules that are out there that everybody knows, but we're going to dive way deeper. And today our special guest is Brent Michael Phillips. Hello, Brent. He is the expert. He has a lot of books. He has a lot of resources. He has a YouTube channel, and we're going to link everything in the show notes for everybody to see. And welcome to the show, Brent. It's great to see you.
This is great. Excited to be here.
So, Brent, you are an MIT engineer, and now you are more of a spiritual teacher. And a lot of people, when they hear that, they're like, that doesn't go together. This is like pure science and then the woo-woo stuff, right, on the other end. So how did you get there?
Well, it's a funny thing, because if you had told me 30 years ago that today I'd be a professional healer and a spiritual teacher, I would have laughed at you. I would have thought it was a joke, because I never thought I'd be into this stuff. But short version, I grew up fascinated partly by magic and technology, both. So I loved Lord of the Rings and King Arthur and all that kind of stuff. But I also loved computers and technology and video games. And they both become important later. When I went to college, I ended up at MIT, which was huge for me because it was at MIT I discovered the internet, which of course sounds funny to everyone who's younger that's listening, but we really haven't had the internet forever. You know, it just appeared one day, it seemed. And I was fascinated by the internet, and I made that the focus of my studies. So I got my bachelor's degree from MIT, got my master's degree, and I was working on my PhD when the internet boom hit. And I thought, hey, this is going to be my gold rush, right? So I left MIT, moved to California, recruited my lifelong best friend to be a business partner, and we started internet startups. And the first couple of years was really exciting. It's a true story that the very first website I ever built in my life was the website for the launch of the Sony PlayStation. That was in the summer of 1995. We did the first website for Nissan Motors. We did the website for Disneyland. So we were working with Fortune 500 companies. A year later, I had 15 people working for me. And we started a second company to make video games, which was always a big passion for me and my friend. And for a while, I really thought I was living the dream. I really thought, hey, I get to make video games for a living. I'll sell one of these companies and retire by 30. Maybe spend my days on a tropical island hot tubbing with supermodels or something, right? But the universe had a very different plan. And the biggest thing that went wrong was I was pushing myself so hard. Mm-hmm. I was working, no exaggeration, 80, 90, 100 hours a week. It was every day, early morning, all day, late night, 7 days a week, no holidays, no breaks, no vacations. And at the time, I thought it was an acceptable sacrifice. But then my body started to break down. Mm-hmm. So long story short, I had a massive health crisis, ended up with permanent chronic pain. And at first, I wasn't too worried because I was having some pain. I just figured up to that point in my life, if you're not feeling well or you have pain, you go to a doctor, they give you something, you get better. And I thought it would be that simple. It wasn't. And I started going to doctors, and they sent metaphysical therapy and had me wear splints and all that usual stuff, right? None of it helped. It was so frustrating because I went from working 100 hours a week, month in, month out, that 100 dropped to 80, and then to 60, and then to 40, and then down to about 15. After a couple of years, I was in so much pain, I could barely type at all. I could hardly sit on a computer for more than a few minutes at a time. And the physical therapy just wasn't helping. And I remember I was so excited because after a couple years of therapy, I finally got approved to see the head doctor at the Curlin Job Clinic, which is a really big deal in the medical world. They're one of the top clinics in the world. They work with all sorts of professional athletes and Olympians. And basically, if you're a high-level athlete and you need therapy, you go there.
Yeah.
And I figured, hey, this guy is the expert. He'll know what to do, right? And long story short, I walked into his office and he had my medical records. And I was thinking, do you have a new surgery? Is there a new therapy? How am I going to get better? And he just said, well, I'm sorry, son, but there's nothing I or any doctor can do here. You're always going to be in pain and you'll never be able to work. And I was just stunned into silence. I didn't know what to say. And on the last thing he said, he just led me right out of his office, basically, oh, you're hopeless, kick you out. He said, son, you got somewhere you can go where they can help take care of you the rest of your life? And I was still in my 20s. And he recommended me for lifetime disability in my 20s, which is actually very rare. Usually when you get lifetime disability in your 20s, you've lost a limb or you're paralyzed or blind or something really catastrophic like that. But he put me in that group. He said, basically, you're impossible to treat. Nothing's ever going to help. And he just put me on disability and sent me home to die, which was devastating. When I told my best friend and business partner, I thought he'd be all, hey, Brent, hang in there. We'll get through this together, right? Because we had been best friends for, almost 20 years at that point. We've been best friends since junior high. And it was just the opposite. He said, well, if you can't work like you used to, you have no place here. So he fired me from both of the companies that I had founded, forged paperwork, and basically cut me out of everything. Right. And I learned a little bit later that it was all because he had been secretly dating the woman that I was crazy in love with. The sickest thing of it all, he didn't even need the money. He had inherited 8 figures from his very wealthy grandfather the year before. So he had more money than he could ever spend. It destroyed me. Mm-hmm. I mean, this wasn't just a simple trauma. This was a total annihilation of my life. For most people, if you form a startup, you work really hard for a couple of years. If it doesn't work out, you do something else. Yep. You try again with a new company or you work for Oracle or whatever. But that was not an option for me. My entire career was gone. My education. I had spent the first 25 years of my life getting educated for a career that lasted 3 years. Mm-hmm. I had lost both my startup companies. The website company he sold behind my back for millions of dollars. And on top of everything else, I also lost my lifelong best friend and the woman that I was in love with at the time. So it was a total wipeout. I was depressed. I was day drinking. I was using drugs. I was suicidal, which, I think is understandable for someone that young to go through that. But I was very lucky. I had a friend turn me on to positive thinking. That kept me from going too far down the drain. And so for a short time, I got really into positive thinking. I'd go to a weekend seminar and jump around on the stage like a monkey and shout out how I was going to be a millionaire and overcome my pain, all this stuff, right? I made my vision board. I put power words on my walls. I said my mantras 108 times every day because someone said, oh, if you say your mantras exactly 108 times, it has to come true, right? Okay. Yeah. Well, let's just say if that was actually correct, I would have retired 35 years ago. It doesn't work that way, right? But anyhow, I got really into positive thinking for a short time. And it felt good for a little while, but after about 6 months, I'm like, why am I doing this? Nothing's changing. My health isn't better. I'm not making money, right? Everything still was awful. So I gave up on positive thinking. And, we'll circle back to that a little later. But the next thing, again, I was very lucky not to stay too long in the spiral. I had another friend turn me on to alternative medicine. And she basically said, hey, Brent, the doctors don't have all the answers. For chronic conditions like yours, alternative medicine often has solutions where conventional medicine doesn't. And that made a lot of sense to me. I read a few books on alternative medicine. Long story short, for the next 5 years, I was living with my parents, running around doing all the alternative medicine I could, running up a gigantic credit card debt, trying to get better. Mm-hmm. So I started with acupuncture and Chinese herbs. Then I went to a homeopath and started seeing an osteopath, a bunch of different chiropractors. I mean, you name it. I saw ergonomic specialists, posture people. I had magnets. I had electric stems. I had a chi machine. I had a vibration generator. I go on and on, right? This was 5 years of my life, basically full time. Yeah. Going to all these different people, trying to get better. And it was so frustrating. Nothing worked for me. It was so difficult because I remember I wasn't the only person I knew that had repetitive stress injuries. I knew other people that had them, and they'd go to the doctor and go through the little treatment protocol and they'd get better.
Mhm.
And I didn't. Not just with conventional medicine, but the alternative medicine didn't help me either. And it was over and over and over. I'd find new person, they'd have a process or a technique or a device or a supplement or a cleanse or something, right? And they'd be, oh, Brent, I know I can help you. Glad you found me. And I'd be all excited and spend all this money on it, and then nothing would happen. Over and over and over and over and over, right? And eventually, it all came to a head in after about 5 years in 2003, because I agreed to apply for an experimental surgery. Because there was a doctor that had a new procedure and that had a research study, and he thought I was a perfect candidate. And so I went and had the surgery. And as you can probably imagine, if the surgery had cured me of all my pain and I would have lived happily ever after, I wouldn't be here today.
Right.
I might be on some technology-oriented podcast somewhere, right?
Right.
Instead, what really happened was I woke up from the surgery and my right arm was paralyzed. It was frozen at the elbow.
Jeez.
Yeah, so they botched the surgery and made me worse, is the short version.
Mm-hmm.
My arm was frozen for 5 months. And I did manipulations, I wore splints, I used machines, all these different things. But nothing was helping. And it was funny that I had done a little bit of energy healing, but it was kind of always hands-on stuff like Reiki or pranic healing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting, but honestly, I didn't feel it did anything for me. You know, someone waves your hands over you, you get bored, you get up, you're done. I wasn't opposed to it, I just wasn't a fan. And it was funny, it was right around then, my Aunt Lauren's best friend, her name was Terry. Terry had gotten sick from black mold, and she almost died. And she found this process of energy healing involving the subconscious that literally saved her life. And I remember getting an email from her that said, hey, everyone, I want you to know I'm quitting my job in finance. I'm going to be a professional full-time energy healing practitioner. And I almost fell out of my chair laughing. I'm like, what a stupid thing to do. You have this great job, this great career, and you're going to walk away from it to hang a shingle as a healer? I just figured, wow, this lady's really gone off the deep end of the new age pool, right? That just seemed crazy. And I remember for those 5 months when my arm was paralyzed, my aunt would call me about once a month, and she'd say, Brent, have you called Terry? Have you had a session? And I go, no, Lauren, energy healing doesn't do anything for me. It's not going to work. I've done all this treatment for years and years. It's a waste of time and money, blah, 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 right? Repeat that 4 or 5 times. On month 5, she goes, what's it going to take? And I said, well, pay for the session and take me out to dinner. And she said, yes. So I was like, okay. So I made an appointment to see Terry. And remember, I'm just there to get the free dinner, right?
Right.
I didn't think it was going to help me. But I was broke and desperate, and a free dinner is huge when you have no money.
Right.
So huge, right? So I'm totally willing to spend an hour of my day talking to some nut to get a free dinner. But she talked to me about the power of the subconscious and how, childhood traumas and things can affect us later. And it was an interesting thing. But we spent about an hour talking, and she asked me about my childhood and what had happened with my parents and then my best friend and everything I'd been through. And she's doing this block clearing thing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting. But the whole time I'm thinking, hey, lady, it's all well and good to talk about your feelings, but that's not why I'm here, right? Mm-hmm. I'm here because I'm in a lot of pain and I can't move my arm. I didn't see how talking about your feelings had anything to do with anything. So I remember we got to the end of our session and Terry said, okay, we're going to heal your arm now. And I was like, yeah, whatever, right? I remember she kind of rolled her eyes into her back of her head and went into a trance. I remember I was looking out the window thinking, gee, maybe I should pick up something for lunch on the way home. Yeah. That's where my head was at. There was this loud crack and pop in my arm. And it was the craziest thing. Terry must have heard it because she opened her eyes and said, okay, Brent, let's try your arm. And I did, and I couldn't believe it. I could move my arm again. It was just like the surgery had never happened. Mm-hmm. So that was really a miracle that took this very nerdy, grounded, skeptical, scientific engineer and turned me into a real spiritual seeker because I had experienced something that I knew was real.
Mm-hmm.
For months, I couldn't move my arm. Then I talked to this crazy lady. She'd clear some blocks on me and my arm fixes. I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but I need to understand this and figure it out, right? But I want to be clear and honest with everyone listening. I don't want anyone to take away the wrong message. It was not as simple as Brent talks to Terry for an hour and then my life became perfect.
Right.
That'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'd sign up for that.
Yeah.
But that's not real life. What did happen was my arm, which had been paralyzed by the surgery, instantly healed. That really happened. But remember, the surgery only came after years of treatment for chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
The chronic pain and all the issues that led me to it, that did not instantly heal. So that one piece did. It kind of undid the damage from the surgery. But all the chronic pain that led me there did not instantly heal. But with a lot more work and time, it did. But that took a couple of years. So I did have to work at it.
Mm-hmm.
But over the next couple of years, first thing I did was I learned everything I could from Terry. I spent a couple of years taking every class she offered, every book, right? Then I kind of went nuts on the whole New Age scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very normal phase we go through, right? You're new to it. Everything's exciting. You want to learn everything, right?
Yeah.
So I learned matrix energetics and UN energetics, and I learned theta healing, and I learned, healing code. I learned all this. I had like 27 certificates on my wall at some point, right? Going nuts with all this stuff. And what happened was when I started doing the subconscious clearing, I slowly started to improve. That's the real message here. Mm-hmm. That I had been in treatment for 8 years at that point. I just got worse. I didn't get better. I got worse. Then when I started to work the subconscious, not only did I stabilize, I started to improve. Mm. But it did take a couple years. I did like 150 privates with Terry, practice groups, everything I could. But I was able to reduce my pain significantly. I was able to start a new career practicing and teaching energy healing. And I was able to start to reclaim a more normal life. I was able to come off disability. I was able to start exercising again. I was able to start dating, things like that. Mm-hmm. I want people to know that miracles do happen, like my elbow instantly healed. But most of the benefits I got took time and effort. Yeah. And that's no different than anything, is it? If you want to learn guitar, you're going to have to put in a certain number of hours practicing. Mm-hmm. Nobody gets good without practicing, like ever, right? Same thing if you want to learn karate. You got to go to the dojo, right? Yeah.
And especially when you were sick for that long, like you said, making it worse and worse and worse, you got to undo all of that stuff.
Yes, that's a great way to look at it. I had a lot of stuff that had to be undone. Imagine it as like a big rat's nest of wires that are all tangled together. That was me, right? That was my subconscious. It was this big mess. And it had to be slowly untangled one cord at a time. But I did get there. And, and again, I want to emphasize, it's not like I lived happily ever after. Mm-hmm. But I had a chance now. I had a way to make money. It was terrifying when I had my first session with Terry. It was terrifying because at that point, my parents had divorced and I didn't have a place to live anymore. And there was about 6 months of my life when I was paying the rent with credit card advances. And let me tell you, that's not a good place to be. This is a terrible financial strategy, just so we're clear. But that's how desperate I was. But all of a sudden, and that is such a huge change. But again, it took a lot of work to get through all this stuff. And what I learned, it was so funny that when I was in grad school at MIT, I actually had, I don't know if it was a prophetic vision or a daydream or just a random thought, but it was a weird thing where MIT near Boston, and in New England in the summer, they have these just brutally hot days where you'll have 3-4 days in the summer where like at 2 a.m, it'll be 90 degrees and 99% humidity, right? Anyone who's lived there knows what I'm talking about. And as a grad student, I was broke. Grad students make nothing. So none of us had air conditioning. So what would happen is when they would have these really hot, humid, brutal summer days, me and most of the grad students, we'd all take sleeping bags and pillows and sleep in the server room at the lab. Why? we had access to the server room. It was air conditioned 24/7,
Okay.
which I still think is kind of funny. MIT air conditioned its servers to keep them comfortable.
Yeah.
Doesn't care at all about the grad students. They can sit and sweat in the office, right? We don't care about them.
Yeah.
But
The
anyhow,
the people are replaceable, but not
Yeah.
the servers.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we can get more grad students. There's plenty of them out there, right? But anyhow, I'm laying down, watching the lights blink, heading off to sleep in the nice cool air,
Mhm.
and I had this insight that, oh my gosh, people work just like computers. That your body is the hardware, right? The monitor, the screen, the CPU. The software is the subconscious. And it was this really powerful insight, but I didn't know what to do with it at the time.
Mhm.
It was just, oh, interesting idea. So I forgot about it. Then, however many years later, when I'm learning healing from Terry, that's exactly what she teaches me. That basically your body is like the hardware and your subconscious is the software that runs your life. And it's a much bigger deal than most people think. The subconscious doesn't just influence you, it controls you. That's something I didn't understand. The way I learned it, it's pretty simple. We are basically a big pile of code. Our DNA is nothing but code. That's what it is. It is an information code. No different than what's in your computer or your cell phone. And we have a program in the subconscious that runs every area of our life. Not too different than on your computer. You got a program that runs your web browser, a program that plays Sudoku, a program that does this and that, right? Well, we all have a program inside of us that determines our level of physical health,
Mhm.
our level of emotional health, how much money you make, your mood, your sense of purpose, your self-confidence, your sense of identity, how you relate to others. All these things are programmed into us. And it's to change your life is actually easier than you might think. You just have to change the code.
Yeah.
It is that simple in theory. So if you want a new app on your phone, you just download it, don't you?
Mhm.
Our brains work the same way. We can just download new information into them,
Mhm.
put it right into the subconscious. And it's when you understand how powerful the subconscious is, certain things start to make sense. As an example, it seems like kind of a crazy claim for me to say that the primary thing that determines how much money you make is your subconscious. Most people would say it's your job, it's your government benefits, it's your investments, it's your family, something like that, right? No, it's your subconscious. And I want to back that up with some proof. How do we know that's true? Well, it's actually pretty simple. We've all heard so many stories about people that win millions of dollars in the lottery, and most of them lose the money and end up broke again.
Mhm.
Do you think that's a coincidence? It's not.
Yeah.
If it happens once or twice, maybe it's a coincidence. But this happens consistently across the whole planet, across decades. Poor people that win money in lotteries tend to lose it. Why is that? Well, it's because their subconscious mind is incompatible with wealth.
Mhm.
It's like taking Mac software trying to run it on a PC. It's information encoded, but it's not in the right format. It doesn't know what to do with it. So what happens is you take someone that only has poor person software and you give them a bunch of money, they will lose the money
Mhm.
almost always. And it's not their fault. It's the way the code works. And that's what I want to emphasize to the listeners in particular. Everything that's gone off in your life, maybe it was a loss of a job or money or a relationship or your health or addiction or depression or whatever it is. We tend to blame ourselves for everything. It's really not your fault. It's the code, right?
Yeah.
And it's understandable in the same way that, have you ever gotten so angry with your computer you want to throw it through a window?
All the time.
I have. I'll admit that, right? And I used to be a computer person. But is throwing the computer through the window going to be functional in getting it to work better?
Mhm.
I would have to say no, right? And that's exactly why our lives are so messed up, is we're blaming the wrong place. That the problem isn't you. It's not your hardware, right? The problem is the software you're running. And just like you can take a perfectly good computer and put a virus on it. And now it's worthless, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what happens to us. But you don't have to throw the computer through the window. You just have to put new software on it. Then it works just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want people to hear is, for the most part, everything that's wrong in our lives is a software problem. In other words, you don't have to get a new body. You don't have to be a new person. You don't need a brain transplant. You just need to change your code. And it's really that simple.
And that's where the effort comes in.
And that is also where the effort comes in. To give an idea of why the subconscious is so important, I like to use a simple computer metaphor that researchers have narrowed down that the conscious mind processes anywhere from 20 to 40 bits of information per second, something like that, right? The subconscious mind does 40 million.
Wow.
So that's a big difference, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a difference of a factor of 1 million. No exaggeration, right? So if we're wondering what's going to be the most important thing to move us forward, I would say you got to change your code.
Mm-hmm.
That the way most of us live our lives, it reminds me of an old blonde joke from the 90s. It goes something like this. How do you know when a blonde has been using your computer? Your monitor is covered with black marker and whiteout. So that's funny, right? And it's funny because we know that's a ridiculous behavior. That if something is going on with your computer, you don't draw on the monitor. You fix the code, right?
Right.
But I want to emphasize, especially for the listeners, we've all been trained to live backwards.
Mm-hmm.
We've been trained to draw on the monitor and think we're making progress. We're not. I think a good example is a lot of modern medicine. Not all of it, but a lot of it is drawing on the monitor.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that? Well, what typically happens when you see a doctor? You make an appointment, you see the doctor, you tell him what's wrong, he runs a bunch of lab tests, right? You do the lab test, you come back to the doctor with the results, and he gives you a bunch of prescription drugs. Why does he do that? Well, the lab says you have too much of this and not enough of that. So it gives you a prescription to give you more of this and less of that. Basically moving numbers around on a chart.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the point. That isn't actually solving the problem, is it? It's covering up symptoms. There's a big difference. Now, it's not inherently wrong to cover up a symptom. Like if your back is hurt and you take a painkiller to have less pain, that's not a wrong thing to do. Just it doesn't solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. And of course, doctors and pharmaceutical companies don't want to solve your problem. They make way more money if they simply cover up your symptoms. Why? If you have to take a pill every day for the rest of your life, they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you take a pill one time and get cured, they make very little money. So the whole system has been set up to basically draw on the monitor, to suppress and change symptoms without solving the core problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I want everyone to see that's not just your medical establishment, this is your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So if your goal is to make more money, I don't think that skipping your Starbucks and avocado toast is going to do the trick. Trying to solve money on the level of money can almost never work.
Mm-hmm.
Because money is not about money, it's about the subconscious. It'd be like trying to get your phone to run an app you haven't installed. It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
You have to put the code in. And the good news is, it's a lot easier than people think to change the code.
I would hope so.
Yeah. And it's funny, that I spent the first couple decades of my life thinking I was always going to be a software engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up becoming a healer. What I see now is they're almost the same thing. That when I worked as a coder, I programmed electronic computers, languages like C and Perl and whatever. As a healer, I'm still working with code, except the medium now is the human subconscious mind. So, and the way I work with clients is very much the same way I would debug a software program.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what the behavior should be, then you understand what's actually happening, and you trace it back to find the source. And then you fix the code. And it can be that simple. Isn't always, right? I want to tell the truth here. Life is not as simple as every problem is solved in an hour.
Yeah.
But some of them will be. Just a simple example, pet allergies. Most people don't realize all an allergy is your body's immune system misrecognizing something.
Mm-hmm.
That's, talk to doctors. They'll go, yeah, that's pretty much it. All you have to do is change the code. I'm not 100%. No one's 100%, but I'm like 98% success rate on pet allergies, usually within 5 or 10 minutes. And that's happened because when I opened my business, I used to do sessions out of my apartment in Los Angeles. And I had cats. And occasionally I'd have a client come over and go, oh my God, Brent, I have to cancel. I'm allergic to cats. Well, here's the crazy thing. Never once did I have a client that had to cancel because of their allergy. I just stood out in the hallway with them for 5 minutes clearing their cat allergy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they walked in and they were fine. So not everything is that easy, but some things are. And this kind of leads us to the next point, that this can be very tempting as a source of power and control for the ego. That, oh, I can make my life be exactly how I want. I'll just say it's not quite that simple. And the way I would summarize it is pretty easy. We don't pick the miracles, they pick us. So can you create miracles with this process? Yes. 100. I've seen thousands. I have students who have seen hundreds. So do miracles happen? Yes. But we don't get to pick which miracles or who it happens for or when. So there is still, I would say, at first I got really excited about reprogramming the subconscious because I thought it empowered me, which it does, but it also makes it even more important to acknowledge the surrender piece. And that's the other part that I want to offer people, both victor content and vehicle content. That a big part of life is learning to be a better victor. In other words, make more money, be healthier, live longer, be happier, right? More of this, less of that. In video games, we call it min-maxing. You want to minimize the bad stuff and maximize the good stuff, right? Minimize pain, maximize money. Minimize loneliness, maximize friends, whatever it may be. That's part of life, for sure. But it's not all of it. A big part, too, is that spiritual surrender. Recognizing that we're all part of something larger than ourselves, and we don't have total control over it for an important reason. It's because people would say, Brent, can I just make my life exactly how I want? I go, you can aim at the life you want, and you'll probably hit very close to it. But a lot of life reminds me of a quote that said about one of my favorite bands, Fate's Warning. They said this: their music never takes you to where you expect it to go, but it always takes you somewhere better.
Yeah, better.
And that's what I want to say about life. Even with this technology, there will be setbacks and problems and even traumas and catastrophes that occur. That never stops, does it? Look at our greatest spiritual teachers. They went through traumas and catastrophes, didn't they? For sure. So these are really powerful tools to take command of our life, but it's not total control. When you see it that way, basically what we do with the technology, what we call the awakening dynamics technique, is we reprogram your subconscious according to how you want your life to be. So you want to have more money? We program you with a better money consciousness. You want to be healthier? We program you with a better health consciousness. And one of the things I used to brag about as a young man was I used to love to say to people, you give me enough time and money, I can make a computer do almost anything. And what I found is that that's true of our lives too. You're willing to spend time on this, you can achieve almost anything in your life. But again, it's not control. It's influence. It's kind of, you're saying, this is where I think I want my life to go. Then let the higher power choose exactly where you end up.
Yeah. Which is a protection, right? It's not going to give you what's not good for you.
That protection is really important. Because we all, as humans, we all want, especially in our modern culture, we lionize and glamorize the ego. We all want to have life be exactly how we want. Yeah. But we don't realize what a disaster that would be. The metaphor I like to use is, I remember when my son was 4 years old, the Dave & Buster's opened in Westchester. And he loved Dave & Buster's. Especially he loved all the driving games, right? He loved the race cars, or or the snowmobile or the motorcycle racing games. He loved those. And what would happen is every time we go to Dave and Buster's, we play a bunch of games, right? And we go to drive home and he goes, Daddy, I want to drive the car today. And I said, no, I did not let my 4-year-old son drive our family car on public roads, even though he really, really wanted it. Why? It's not safe. At best, he would have wrecked the car. At worst, he could have killed people. So as much as we love our children, we don't let them drive cars. And that's why the higher part of us, whether we call that our soul contract or our guidance or our path or our destiny, it won't let you do things that take you too far off track. It won't let you do things that would be unrecoverable. So it doesn't let you. And the ego gets tweaked by that. So my son really wanted to drive the car. I said no. He was disappointed. Okay. That's the cost of it. Sometimes my cats beg to go outside at night. We don't let them out at night because there's coyotes in the neighborhood. It's too dangerous for them, right? We don't love them. It's just you can't always have what you want. It's not always what's best for you. And I say that because if you use these tools from that mindset, you'll do great. You go see it in terms of basically the law of attraction, that return to the positive thinking. A lot of us have watched The Secret or read the book, right? Or Think and Grow Rich or Think Yourself Rich or some version of that. Many of us have made the vision board and the mantras and the power words and all that, and then things don't show up. Did you know that there was a scientific study done on the law of attraction? What they found was over 99% of the participants felt they got few or no results. How bad is that, right?
Right.
And we want to ask what's going on there. Well, I can give an answer. First is notice that the results are not 0%. It's less than 1%. So if you get enough people in a hotel room and have them jump around like monkeys, a few of them will see a shift. Why does that happen? Well, it's pretty simple. The reason a very small number of people get big results from the law of attraction is they are naturally free of subconscious blocks. So they go, jump on the stage, make a vision board, say their mantras, and things show up. It's not 0. It's just very rare. And so how do we change that? Well, it's pretty simple. With the technology, we need to go and change the code. Because the subconscious is responsible for like 99.999% of your life. Again, subconscious, 4 million bits of information per second. Conscious, 20. It's a big difference, right? And when we look at all these things we can do, the reason the law of attraction doesn't work, and this is not the only reason, there's actually a whole list of them. I have a book called The Anti-Secret that goes over them all, but the biggest one is the subconscious. That if you're full of subconscious blocks, it will stop you dead.
Yeah.
If you're full of subconscious blocks, you can say your mantras every day, hours a day, till you're blue in the face, till you're 120 years old, nothing changes. And it's nothing personal, it's the way it works, right?
Well, and most of us have it because it's a huge cultural indoctrination almost,
Yes.
because
Yeah, for sure.
I want to keep you small.
Yep. So why does this work? Well, it's pretty simple. That the law of attraction, the universal law of manifestation, does not hear the conscious mind. It can't hear it. It doesn't speak that language. It does communicate with the subconscious. So when you have a thought just in your head, I'm a millionaire, I'm healthy, that's great. That's a good start. But if that's not resonating in your subconscious, it's not going anywhere. Why? The law of attraction cannot hear you. Most people make their vision boards. The law of attraction can't see your vision board. It cannot communicate with it. There's no interface there. But it does interface to the subconscious. That's why I mentioned we program the subconscious according to how you want your life to be. When you do that, the law of attraction hears you. So you program yourself for more wealth, for happiness, for success, for whatever it is you're looking for, right? When you do it in the subconscious, the law of attraction hears that, and it responds to it. It reminds me of a time I was probably 10, 11 years old. My parents took the family to Mexico. And I remember me and my sister were with my mom, and she was trying to ask directions to someplace. She was talking to some Mexican man on the street who clearly did not speak English, right? So she kept raising her voice at him, thinking that volume was the problem. And I laughed so hard because I'm like, Mom, volume is not the issue. This man is not hard of hearing. He just doesn't speak English.
Right.
Yelling at him is not going to change that. But that's how we've been trained to use the law of attraction.
Right.
We're shouting at it with our conscious mind. It doesn't speak that language.
With your 108 affirmations.
Exactly, with your 108 affirmations. It's not a personal thing. It's not that it doesn't like you. It just doesn't speak that language. Again, like running Mac software on a PC. It doesn't understand the encoding. It doesn't know what to do with it. That's why many of us do the law of attraction. We make a vision board, the mantras, the mastermind, jump on the stage. Okay. But if it's not in the subconscious, the law of attraction can't hear it. So if you want the law of attraction to hear you, it only can be reached through the subconscious. And that's what works. And I mentioned the lottery winners before. That's such an instructive example. And it's not just lottery winners that lose their money. There's another group that's been studied, former professional athletes. You may have heard that a huge number of former athletes end up going bankrupt. And this happens, again, it's nothing wrong with them. They're running poor person software. They're running a poverty program. And the numbers I've seen, the worst is football. Did you know that the minimum rookie salary in the NFL is around $750,000 a year?
Oy.
That's a lot of money. That's for 1 year for a rookie, right? Some kid that's 21 years old, just out of college, gets paid almost $1 million. And that's the minimum. But almost 80% of NFL players go bankrupt within 5 years of retirement. You would think if you make that kind of money early on in your life, you should be set. You play for 2 years, you make a couple $1 million, you buy a house, make some investments, and then you can relax. But most of them go bankrupt. And that's what I want people to hear, that it's not about your job or your degree. It's about your subconscious or even your mindset. That some people just have good software for making money. I mean, look at someone like Elon Musk. Yes, he had a big advantage in being born extremely wealthy, but he's created what? At least 2, maybe 3 multi-billion-dollar companies. That's not a coincidence. He has good money software, right? There's others of us, maybe some of the listeners, that have done everything right and they still struggle and fail. You worked hard in school, you listened to your parents, you ate your vegetables, right? You got up early, you worked hard, you put in the effort, and you wonder why you're 40, 50, 60 years old going, why does my life still suck? It's not your fault. No one told you got to change your code. Pretty simple, And it's truth that in the old days, it was very difficult to change your subconscious. Not anymore. We've advanced the technology. And that's really my role as an engineer. If we look at the awakening dynamic system, I will freely admit I did not create all of this from scratch. That would seem stupid to me. Why do you think I went to MIT? I could have studied electrical engineering on my own and tried to figure it all out on my own, but I'd probably be 80 years old before I'd get halfway through the first year. I went and I learned from other people, right? So Awakening Dynamics is really an all-star team. I spent almost 12 years working with masters all over the world, some really amazingly talented people. And I figured out what they were doing. And I reverse engineered their processes. So that's why I say that Awakening Dynamics is more like an all-star team. I did not invent 80% of the pieces. What I did do was I took some amazing things from other people and I integrated them and I evolved the whole thing to make it better. Because that's what they taught me at MIT. That's what they teach every engineer. You study a system, take it apart, figure out how it works, then you put it back together and make it better.
Right.
So that's where Awakening Dynamics is very different than other systems. Almost all of the other systems I practiced, it has been one person. They had their experience, they got their process, and it's all that. What I'm giving you is the best of dozens of systems. And I'm an integrator. And I know that's not a very sexy word, but what that means is I make it accessible and easy for people. That not a lot of us were using computers in the 60s. Why? It was really difficult. They took up a whole room, and you had to program them with punch cards.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people had the patience to deal with that. Now we all carry around computers in our pockets.
Right.
What's the difference? They got easier to use. You can't carry around a server room. You can carry around a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've done with healing and intuition and law of attraction. I can't do all the work for you, but I can make your process better. I would say it's like transportation. If you ask someone from 200 years ago, how long does it take to get from New York to London? They would say probably 3 or 4 weeks on a fast ship. But you ask someone from the late 20th century, they go, oh, 3 hours on the Concorde.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a process, right? But 3 hours is much better than 3 weeks, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I bring to healing. I don't have the ability to solve all your problems in an hour. No one does. But sometimes we can resolve one or maybe make a lot of progress on them.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Faster technology. Instead of taking 3 years of healing, maybe I can get you there in 3 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I can do is make it as fast and easy to use as I can.
Yeah.
And then, it's up to people to decide, hey, do I want to use this? The poet Rumi once said, a journey of 3 weeks will take 100 years without a guide.
Yep.
And what I'll say to the listeners is, if you want to try to figure this all out on your own, go crazy. It'll probably take you decades if you're lucky. And you'll probably make a lot of mistakes and chase a lot of dead ends and waste a lot of time and money. But that's okay, right? If you want to figure, it's just unfortunate. I see a lot of people that think, oh, there's so much free spiritual content on TikTok. I don't need to ever work at it. Well, it's kind of garbage, right?
Yeah.
It's like saying, why do people go to movies when there's an infinite amount of content on TV? Well, they go to movies because it's better quality, right? I mean, they're not all good, but right. It's an experience. Exactly. Really, I think in terms of manifestation, the thing I want people to know is that there is a process to this. I'm not sure I'd quite call it a science. I'd say it's more of a pseudoscience right now. It has some scientific aspects, but it does not qualify as hard science for sure. And if you don't know about these things you need, you're just not going to succeed. And again, it's not your fault. But if no one told you that you have to change your code to change your life, how are you supposed to know how to do that?
Mm-hmm.
That when I was a young man, I thought I had it all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was so smart and so accomplished and so well educated and so hardworking and all these things. But all I saw was the outside part of life, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the results of things were entirely based on the inputs and the process.
Yes.
To give a silly example, I remember, again, as a young man, when I started working with a dating coach, I really thought that if he just bought me some cool clothes and gave me a smooth pickup line and aimed me at the right bar, that I'd have a bunch of dates.
Right.
Why? All I saw was the outer game, right? I
Mm-hmm.
totally missed the inner game. Now, in terms of dating, the inner game is confidence, comfortable in your skin, your presence, your charisma, right?
Yes.
And that matters a lot more than your pickup line.
Yes.
Of course. Every woman knows that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't realize was the same lessons applied to life.
Yep.
It's not just about your intelligence, your education, your degree, where you live, even who you know. It's who you are on the inside.
Yeah. Well,
that's defined by the code.
Yeah, success is an easy formula. You put more effort in, you get more out. But unfortunately, that's not
Yes,
it.
I like how you said that. When I was a young man, I really believed that action equaled result.
Mm-hmm.
More action equals more result. You work hard, you make a little money. You work harder, you make more money. What I was totally missing was the inside part. That the results are ultimately a lot more about the inside than the outside.
Yeah.
And again, dating is another good example. A guy doesn't have to be in especially cool clothes or have a smooth pickup line or any of that to be interesting, do they?
Exactly.
The real value has nothing to do with the outside. And life is the same. That taking action is important, but on its own, it's not enough. Only if you're lucky to have the subconscious clear. So are there people that go start a company out of college and become millionaires? Of course. Just like there's people that end up marrying the first person they fall in love with. But it's unusual.
Right.
It happens, but it's unusual.
Would you say that these blocks that you're talking about, these subconscious blocks, that it sounds like if you have them, this is going to
Yep.
really inhibit you from manifesting successfully? That's the hardest thing when you work with clients to really get those resolved?
I wouldn't say it's the hardest. I'd say it's a chunk of work, but it's a pretty well defined and understood chunk of work. In engineering, we call it a known problem. In other words, if you want to build a house, we know how to do that, don't we?
Mhm.
There's plenty of people that have the knowledge to build a house. It still takes a certain amount of time and money to do it, but we know how, right? So I'd say the block clearing is like that. It's pretty straightforward. It just takes some time.
Mhm.
I'd say the harder piece is the attachment.
Mm.
I have a solution there too. That's why I said there's multiple pieces to manifesting that many people are missing. The biggest one is the subconscious, for sure. So if you're just going to make one shift in your manifesting, make it that. And I'd say the most difficult is the attachment, because how do you get someone to not be attached to their own life? Right? If you're in a lot of pain, how do you not be attached to that?
Yeah.
If you're doing well in life and you just want a bigger house, a bigger car, that's one thing. But if you're struggling for survival, how do you not be attached to that? And there is an answer, but it's a longer process of what we call awakening.
Mm-hmm.
That when you understand what's really happening in life, it actually makes a lot more sense. And one of the keys to manifesting is to release that attachment. That I'll talk in terms of resistance, because that's an easy one to understand. And a lot of our attachment is resistance to what we don't want.
Mm-hmm.
And my mentor Carl used to say that most people piss away 90% of their manifesting power in resistance. What does that mean? I'll give an example. I went to a law of attraction seminar. I think it was T. Harv Eker around 2004. And it was such an interesting experience, because I went there and he's going on and on about, positive thinking and vision boards and all that stuff, right? And on the last day, he just kind of mentions offhand, if you really want to see shifts in your life, you need to work with the subconscious. And he talked about how he worked with golf coaches for years and couldn't improve his score. And he went to a hypnotist and got like a 5-point better score instantly. It's pretty crazy. But what happens is, how do we not be attached to the content of our own life, right? I can give a short answer right now, which is your life is not you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That you are not the subject of your life, you are the observing of your life. That, to put it in one sentence, you are not a noun, you are a verb. And it's funny, did you know that was written into the Vedic scriptures 5,000 years ago? And it's still so profound.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping the listeners are confused by what I just said. If you're not confused, it means one of two things. Either you're already fully awake, possible, unlikely, but possible, or you didn't hear it. That's why I said it that way.
Yeah.
You are not a noun, you are a verb. As long as you think you are a noun, meaning a separate being, you'll be attached. It's inevitable. When you realize you are not a human or a man or a woman or an American or a Mexican or any of that you are simply the eternal witnessing and observing, that allows us to put down the burden of attachment. One way to put it would be this, that when you live from the ego, we're all separate. Let's say you and I ran a race, right? And we run a 100-yard dash, and one of us wins and one of us loses. Does it really matter? The answer is no, because there's only one of us here. It would be like if I asked you, if I'm handing you $1,000 in cash, does it matter if you accept that money with your left hand or your right hand? Not really, right?
No.
Why? Both hands are part of the same person. It all ends up in the same wallet. Doesn't really matter which hand you take it with, does it? And that's the point about life. There's only one of us here. That in every race, you are the winner and the loser. Today you're the winner, next time you'll be the loser. And when you start to see things that way, then the attachment starts to dissolve. Then we stop fighting this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing I was going to mention from T. Harv's seminar, he asked 10 people up on stage, and he said, why are you here? Why is it so important to you to manifest and make more money? And I remember of the 10 people on stage, 9 of them gave answers like, oh, I'm living in my parents' basement and it sucks. I want to move out. I need to make more money. Another guy said, oh, I want to quit my job because my boss is such a jerk. I need more money. And basically, the first 9 people were all trying to make money to get away from something in their life they didn't like. Bad living situation, bad roommate, bad boss, bad car, whatever, right? But one of the people was a woman that said, oh, I'm here because I'd love to have a lot of money because it's always been my dream to open an animal sanctuary. And that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that the seminar leader said, only one person here is likely to have success. Who is it? And it was the woman with the sanctuary. Do you know why?
She focused on what she wanted.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Her motivation was moving towards what she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else's motivation was getting away from what they didn't want. That's the takeaway here. That's our resistance. That's why most of us piss away 90% of our manifesting power, creating exactly the opposite of what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're begging for money to quit your job because you hate your boss, you're only reinforcing it. You're only reinforcing it. I would say awakening dynamics is a synthesis of metaphysical techniques, such as subconscious clearing, intuitive reading, space clearing, soul front retrieval, stuff like that, right? Those I would call the metaphysics, along with spiritual study, which is equally important, just different. What are you? What is consciousness? What is the divine? What comes first? How does life really work?
Mm-hmm.
You put the two together, it becomes very powerful because we need the metaphysics to clear the subconscious. Got to fix the bugs, right?
Right.
But we also have to fix our mindset and paradigm. That's somewhere between ass backwards and completely wrong. That's what the spiritual piece is for.
Right.
Because if you have metaphysics without the spiritual, you only end up empowering the ego, which might be a fun ride for a short time, but you always crash.
Right.
If you want that, just go to a bar. Have some drinks, get drunk, you'll have a hangover, life goes on, right? Fun ride, then a big crash. The spiritual piece is to keep us grounded and keep us moving forward no matter what. So we stay out of the mind, stay in the heart, and stop being so attached to everything. Yeah. I'm not saying it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you not be attached to your own health or your child's success in life? I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying there is a solution. And it's pretty awesome that the good news, the way the universe really works, is so much better than what we think. So I think you'll like what happens when you let go of the old paradigms. The new ones really are better, but there's always a difficulty in grieving and letting go, right? You move to a new house that you like better. You still miss the old one, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You get a new car. You like your new car, but you still miss the old one.
Right. And
that's okay. Nothing wrong with that, right? But yeah, I really think it's important to bring a synthesis of the metaphysics and the spiritual tools. And, I'm a bit of an odd duck in that one of the things I don't like about the self-improvement world is the lack of collaboration and sharing. I really want to see it be more like the scientific and engineering world, where people publish their data and research and share resources, rather than everyone sitting in their own little silo just trying to get as much as they can.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm very different than most people. I will tell you exactly where I learned this stuff. I'm not claiming that I channeled this straight from God. I learned it from other humans.
Right.
And I know plenty of people that claim they channeled their stuff straight from God, and they're all full of shit. They all learned it from people.
Right.
It's the only way we learn things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really that simple. And I'll tell you exactly what the strong points and weak points are of the system. And I'll just tell the truth. Because again, I'm an engineer. I'm not a salesman, right? I'm not a preacher. I'm here to make things that work.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want something that really works, come check out Awakening Dynamics. I think you'll love it.
Yeah.
At the same time, if all you want is someone covered in crystals to give you a big hug and tell you it's okay, I'm not the best choice. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And if that's what you need, go do it, right? It's just, I'm here to solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in making you feel better today only to have the same problems there tomorrow. And it can be uncomfortable because confronting all the old myths that we've lived in can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you see the truth, you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I lived this way for so long. And that's tough. But if you're willing to go to the uncomfortable places, if you're willing to let go of these truths you've clung to for so long, I think you'll love what happens.
And you got to do the work.
You got to do the work.
Every time something works really well, it is because you are involved in your own journey and you have to show up and do the work. You cannot have someone, like you said, covered in crystals giving you a hug and then everything is okay. That's not how this works.
Right. That there is a work aspect to it. But again, you will see progress and miracles along the way.
Mm.
The trouble is, I don't know the exact timing or ordering of those things.
Yeah.
So some people have pain and they need to make more money. Some people, they got to do their pain first, then the money comes. Others have to focus on money first. I don't know, right? But it's interesting that the way I run things now is more of like a dojo. Because what I found is the real value is not in the occasional weekend seminar or private session. There's value there, but that's actually relatively small. Most of the value you get is from applying and doing the work for yourself on your own, right? So I run practice groups 2 or 3 times a week, live groups every week. I get together with my students, we ask questions, we share techniques, we do work with each other. And what I want people to know is that we have made this so fast and so reliable that almost everyone can get to their goal in life, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I think the dojo was a good example. That if you want to learn karate, all you have to do is find a dojo and start showing up for the classes. At my dojo, they have a saying. The only difference between a white belt and a black belt is how many classes you've attended. And that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
That if you want to learn karate, you start attending class, I guarantee at some point you will get a black belt. But if you don't show up, you never will.
Yeah, you have to keep showing up.
And with the technology we have here, this is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Can you reduce your pain, improve your health, make money, improve your confidence? Yes, 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 yes. But for most people, it's going to take some work.
Yeah.
That's why me and my advanced students are there 2 or 3 times a week, live groups.
Mm-hmm.
You show up, you show up, you show up, results happen. For some people, it's like saying, hey, how long will it take me to learn to kick ass when I learn karate? I don't know. It might be 6 months. It might be 10 years.
Right.
Hard to say in advance, right? But you will get there. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The question is not whether you can achieve your goal. The question is, are you going to give up before you get there?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question.
And that's in your program, right? So the ADT method, you go over the blocks, you go over the attachment.
Yep.
And then it's kind of like, sounds like the prep work before the actual.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
20 years ago, that's all there was clear the blocks. Now you're correct. I have so many more levels and so much depth to it. The block clearing is a foundational step.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like saying, if you want to drive a race car, first I'm going to teach you to drive a passenger car.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to drive a Toyota than an F1 race car. Why?
Yeah.
If you put a typical person in a race car, they'll just blow the clutch first thing.
Mm-hmm.
They won't even get it in gear, right? Once you can drive a Toyota, then I can teach you how to drive the race car.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you can't teach someone a race car from scratch.
Yeah.
So we have the foundational level of the work, which is a lot of metaphysics and subconscious clearing that creates a powerful foundation that then allows me to take you to the higher levels.
Right.
Are there higher levels? Yes.
You cannot fill it if it's cluttered
right.
with stuff that doesn't belong.
Yeah. And, I'd use a math example. I can't teach you calculus if you don't know algebra.
Right.
It's not no one's fault. It's just that's how it works, right?
Yeah.
You have to have this before this. That no one goes, straight from being born to being 18 the next day.
Right.
There's all those stages in the middle we got to go through, right? And this is no different, for sure.
Yeah.
My goal is to, I see myself as kind of like a lighthouse. I didn't build your ship. I didn't make the shore or your cargo or any of that, right? I just want to light the way to make it easier on you. There's still a journey, right? The lighthouse cannot pick up the ship out of the ocean and stick it in the harbor, but the lighthouse can illuminate things to make the journey faster, safer, easier. That's kind of what I want to do for people. Honestly, I can't change the destination of your journey. That's written in your soul contracts. But I can help get you there in a better way. You might say, if it's in your soul contract to travel from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, it's going to happen, right? But are you going to be crammed into the back of a stinky bus, or are you going to be riding in a limo with caviar and champagne?
Right.
That's what I mean by, at a certain level, I can't change where you end up in life. That's over my pay grade. But we can make a lot of shift to your experience of the ride of the journey. Right. For sure. And get you there faster.
Yeah. How you experience it.
Yeah. How you experience it is everything.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Because we all end up in the same place eventually.
You would think.
Yep. You're floating up out of your body and that's it.
And you can't take any area stuff from Earth with you. Sorry.
Nope. All the Earth stuff stays here.
Yeah.
Yep. For better or for worse. Though I expect I'll be wealthy in the afterlife because I've had more than one client tell me they were paying me in astral gold.
Oh.
So, yeah. Now, I also ask for, US dollars too.
Right.
They're like, oh, you did so much, so much service and value. I'm going to give you all this astral gold. I'm like, cool. Is that like a Bitcoin wallet? How does that work?
I was about to say it's heavenly crypto, but
yes, it's heavenly crypto, except it's not a scam, right?
Your wallet will be waiting for you at the pearly gates. You can pick it up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Great. So people can find you at awakeningdynamics.com.
Yep.
And that's where you're actually not only your program, but all the other things you have on there too. I know you wrote a couple of books and everything you do. You have a great YouTube channel too. I'm going to link that in the show notes because there's a lot of information on that YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, and the one I'll call out, I have lots of programs and books there, right? Find the one that works best for you. The Anti-Secret is really popular. It's basically a short program showing you what the secret is missing and how to fill it in.
Yeah.
And we talked about a little bit of that here with the subconscious and the attachment. There's actually more, but that's a great starting point for people that want to be more serious about manifesting. Why? You're not failing because you did it wrong. You're failing because they only told you part of it. It'd be like they handed you a steering wheel and expected you to drive a car.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you have a part of it, but most of it's not there.
Yeah.
So that's a good place to start. I also want to offer, just for the first 30 days, I can't do this forever. Anyone that's serious about this, that feels that this material and my approach is going to be right for you, reach out to me. There's a podcast special button on the website. Just mention the podcast, and I will talk to you for 20 minutes for free.
Awesome. Well,
just
that's a goodie.
To get a sense. Yeah, I just want to get a sense of who you are, where you want to go in life, and then I'll recommend how I think you should get there.
Awesome.
And a lot of the time it's my programs, but not always. I will refer people other places if I'm not the right fit for you. So if you want to kick the tires, learn more, go to the YouTube channel, right? A ton to learn. If you're eager to get started and really do the inner work, go to my website. I'd love to hear from you.
Great.
My goal for being here is simple. I want to find just ideally a couple people that are a really good fit for this work.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to drive their life forward, right?
Yeah. And that shows your integrity too, that you refer people out if they need something else.
It's funny. When I started this 23 years ago, I wanted everyone to take my class and do a session. I wanted to try to help everyone. What I've learned since then is I'm not the right fit for everyone. There's a reason there's so many healers and spiritual teachers out there. We all got to find the one that's a good fit for us. And if I'm a good fit for you, would love to meet you. If not, I'll try to aim it at the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I just want to help people get to where they're going. Sometimes I'll say, hey, this other lighthouse is going to work better for you.
Yeah. Well, and we all have energies and vibes and, vibrations, and we need a match, especially when it comes to something like that. Because
Yeah.
that can be, it can be, not always, but it can be a very difficult work to clean those blocks and let go of these attachments and
For sure.
move on. And then, yeah, but I can envision that you fit for a lot of people.
Yeah. But
So,
not everyone,
right. And that's okay.
That's, again, I want everyone to hear you can get to your goal almost certainly. You just got to not give up, right?
Yeah.
And what I found works best is, on one hand, always be listening and learning. There's always some new book, some new show, some new program, some new teaching that's out there. So always be dabbling and learning. Pick one system or teacher at a time to go deep.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do multiple at a time. I mean, unless that's all you do, right? But if you're like most of us, you have a job and family and commitments, you can't do that. But just pick one at a time. Spend a year, 2 years, 3 years learning what they have to teach you.
Yeah.
Because I think a big mistake a lot of people make in the personal development world is people just kind of skim over the surface, take a tiny bit here and there, but nothing ever penetrates deep. So listen to podcasts, read books, watch YouTube, whatever, for sure. But at some point, you got to commit, right?
Yeah.
If you take one class at 50 dojos, you're never getting a black belt.
Yeah. Well,
You
and
got to pick one.
just hearing about this is what is the wrong way and this is the right way, but then you need someone who's giving you the instruction how to actually tap into this and do it, because and everybody might need some different techniques or whatnot, tweak it a little bit different. So you have to have that, like you said, that guide.
You need to have it. Only if you want to have success, right? What do you think will happen if you go try to teach yourself karate from YouTube? And then you join a tournament. Yeah, you're going to get your ass handed to you. Why? You just can't learn it on your own.
Yeah. Actually, my family does jiu-jitsu, so I have real life examples from this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can go watch 1,000 videos on Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It ain't going to teach you how to grapple.
Nope.
As soon as someone knows what they're doing, gets their hands on you, you're toast. That's the same thing with this stuff. I understand why people do it. There's an overwhelming amount of free, low-quality content out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy to get lost in it.
100%.
But yeah, check out all the stuff. But if you want to see results, pick one system, technique, process at a time and actually apply it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you want to get a black belt, pick a dojo, go there. Keep training. It's that simple.
Yeah. And
Not
the
forever.
thing is, too, I have to say,
enough.
I did go on your website, and what I can say, not taken away from anything, but you are also very affordable, because I have seen people that don't teach what you do. They teach almost like the basic stuff you can find free on the internet, and they charge you $5,000 for, I don't know,
ridiculous.
A little course, and that's not you.
No, not at all.
So nobody be scared.
Nope. You could buy almost everything I offer for that amount of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I keep it affordable for a simple reason. I want people to use it and get good results. I don't just want the rich people to have better lives.
Exactly.
I want everyone to have better lives.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's such a rare view nowadays, but that's how I feel.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Thank you for everything you do, Brent. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your personal life story with everybody and, giving people hope, because I hear this all the time. When manifestation comes to the table, sometimes there's success, but a lot of times in all the other areas, it's like stuck. So let's get you unstuck out of this. So, all right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in every Monday and subscribe, share, do all the things you need to do, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, a review, and share it with somebody you think needs this. Have a fabulous day. See you next time.